Now, this one is a lot more serious. It's titled Checking In with Your Partner or Spouse. Do you do this throughout the day? I'm wondering what's normal. I work from home primarily, where sometimes I'm in and out. If I leave, I don't feel the need to tell my partner this. He's working, so why bother with this small detail? I don't hide being gone. If we were talking, then I'd mention it, but otherwise I don't. Sometimes I'll make a stop somewhere, maybe pick up groceries, just normal stuff. He basically gets upset if I don't tell him, and I don't know why. Would this upset you or your partner? Today he found out that I went to Best Buy after an appointment, and he was basically walking around the house saying, "What else did you do?" Basically trying to find other things. He only asked this because I left the receipt on the table. I said, "Yeah, I went. What's the big deal?" Now it seems like he's being passive aggressive. I don't share this same thought. Some days he's gone all day for work and I don't feel the need to check in or for him to tell me what he's doing. So tell me, is this normal? And then she edits and adds, I want to also clarify that we text throughout the day, all day, and he calls me frequently. He'll call me from job to job sometimes, but it can get excessive if I'm actually trying to get work done. To add context, the other day I caught up on my work and I was so excited to be about to have 5 uninterrupted hours to clean our house. I put my AirPods in, connected them to my laptop to stream a show and started to clean. I went to check my phone after a bit and saw that he called and texted me 5 times. His text said something like, "Wow, why are you ignoring me? What are you doing?" This upset me a lot. I called him back only after like 20 minutes and I told him I was really disappointed he was texting me like that. I didn't appreciate it and not to text me again. All accusatory when I was just cleaning the house and didn't hear the phone. He laughed it off, but I feel like he was lighthearted because his employee was with him. It really bothered me that he texted me like that. Now, there are 2 potential angles to this one, as always, pretty much. On the one hand, you could say, okay, maybe there is some kind of reason for the partner here to be so touchy. Maybe there was cheating in the past. Maybe he has his own set of trust issues because he was cheated on previously. Maybe there are situations in which OP has lied to him that give him the impression, hey, she's hiding something, and that's why he's so touchy about it. The other angle is that there is a certain amount of knowing what your spouse is up to that I think is quite natural and quite reasonable and quite normal. And so, for example, if I were to have an appointment and I were to drop by a store and my husband would come back from work, it would just come up in normal casual conversation. I'd tell him where I was and what I did that day. And so I don't know if maybe OP is the one who's really touchy because she doesn't like this feeling of I have to report what I'm doing to my spouse, which is fair enough. When you're a grown adult woman, you don't really want to be feeling like you're reporting. But maybe she tries to keep things from him for this reason. The situation that she explains, that she describes at the bottom here, sounds very strange to me. Definitely the freak out about her not answering the phone within 20 minutes is quite strange. All that said, I think my husband would also get quite annoyed at me if he called me and I ignore my phone, which I do all the time because my phone doesn't ring out loud. And so that's a source of conflict for us. So maybe there's some element of that to it. But in general, that he really freaked out and immediately thought, hey, what are you doing? You must be doing something strange. It's very weird. And then the way that she wraps it up, she says, hey, he laughed it off, which then gives the impression that he didn't actually take it all that seriously to begin with. So basically, I feel that this thread is just not honest. There is some background story here that OP is not very upfront about. Fundamentally, if I felt like my husband needs to keep tabs on me to a level that I think is unreasonable, I would probably try and sit down and figure out where's the trust issue coming from. Like, why does he feel the need to know exactly where I am, what I'm doing every day? Why do I need to pick up the phone within 2 minutes if I'm at home and he knows that I'm at home? Like, did he actually need something? Was there something urgent? Is he more annoyed at me not being reachable versus anything else? Like, these are the types of conversations that I think you would have to try and solve this. I think there is some element here where you could argue that the partner is just being super controlling, like way over the top. And that's very well possibly, like that's possibly the case. But if there's nothing else going on wrong in the relationship, then I wouldn't assume, like I would find it strange if this is an isolated incident in terms of controlling behavior. If he's controlling in general about everything else as well, or about a couple of other things too, then I would probably say, okay, there's a red flag here. There's something going on here that is not normal. Now, the first person replies, we don't. That is, they don't check in with each other. She says, we check in when we're both home and again when the kids are in bed. I would be worried if my husband started needing to know where I was always. Checking in to see how the day is going is definitely good, just not something that we do. And OP replies, exactly. I'm not saying I never reach out. We text frequently throughout the day, every day. I will see how work is going and so on. But when he texts, it's more, what are you doing? Not, how is your day going? So I feel like it's more checking up on me than genuinely seeing how I am. I've brought this up before about how I didn't like it, but after a year or two, he hasn't made much changes to doing this. Now, that sounds like they've been in a relationship for a pretty long time, and it also sounds like the communication between them is just completely off. So if she says, hey, he says this thing on a really regular basis, and I take it as a pretty bad sign, and then you talk about it, and neither one of you kind of backs down from that position, so he doesn't try to change how he's communicating, and she doesn't think, okay, I know that he doesn't mean it like this because we talked about it, so I can move on and just feel about it differently, then that's probably a problem, because what that means is that they have arguments in the past that are a year, 2 years, 3 years old, and they're both still holding on to the same positions that they held back then. That's the assumption. It could very well be that OP is the main person who's really holding on to that, and he's just like, yeah, well, I explained it to her, so I don't know what's the big deal. Next comment, person says, I always let him know what I'm doing and if I end up at other places. However, he doesn't hound me if I don't. That's kind of odd. I'd ask your husband why he doesn't feel the need to share his every move with you as well. And then OP replies, he'll tell me if something comes up, but again, he sometimes doesn't. If he ends up doing something he didn't tell me about, I just don't care. It's so insignificant for me. He's at work, whatever he's doing throughout the day, I'm assuming is work-based. And then someone finally tells her, hey, there seems to be a lack of trust based on what you gave us. I think you need to have a conversation with him as to why it's so important that he knows where you are at all times, and it feels like he doesn't trust you. If nothing is wrong, I think it will help to talk it out. Hopefully he isn't projecting, as we have seen so many times on this app. And what that's referring to is that often men who are themselves cheating will accuse their spouse, partner, girlfriend of cheating as well. Something about exhibiting the same behavior that you like, just the moment that you are also acting in that way, and it's one of the actions, I guess one of the thought processes that you're going through is, hey, how do I hide the fact that I'm cheating? Then suddenly you start seeing cheating signs everywhere, and it makes you super hyper paranoid because that's already what you're doing. So that's what that means in terms of projection. That is also possible as an option. If he is cheating and there's nothing else in the relationship that suggests that she might be cheating, there was no reason for him to suspect her of doing this, then there might be some element of projection there. Next comment, me and my husband have live 360 on each other because he's a trucker, and usually I will tell him when I'm going somewhere so he doesn't think that something is wrong. I don't leave the house much though. Usually I'll tell him where I went or what I did because that's just normal conversation. And OP replies to this one. She says, I'm definitely not hiding going places. If we catch up when he's home from work, yeah, I'll mention that I did XYZ, but he came home and saw the receipt right away and got upset, saying, why don't I ever tell him anything? It's a response that bugs me. I tell him a lot. I didn't know I had to tell him about Best Buy prior to Best Buy. I bought something, so surely he would have saw when I ordered and asked when I got it. And so it seems to me that they are just on different pages when it comes to communication. They don't really seem to have a good understanding of what the other person wants. At the very least, they don't accept each other's intentions in terms of, hey, I'm not assuming something bad when I freak out that you're not telling me XYZ. Maybe, I just feel like you're hiding things from me because you're not engaging with me or interacting with me as much as I would like you to, and we don't talk to each other as much as I would want. That's another potential reason or explanation for the behavior here. But it does sound pretty dodgy. It does not sound like a very healthy relationship at all. Final comment, she says, we don't tell each other our every move, but we do randomly check in with each other. We work opposites, so when he's at work, I'm home with the kids and vice versa. So sometimes he'll texting me asking what we're up to. Sounds like he is trapped at home working. He doesn't work at home. And he is just bummed that he doesn't get to go out too. Working from home can be bittersweet. And OP replies to this one. She says, sometimes it is a bit of jealousy. If I say I'm heading out, she'll respond, lucky. Not sure how it's lucky. Also, it's my job. I brought up how this bothers me sometimes, but he always says, I was just joking. He continues saying these things after years of me saying it annoys me. I can't help that I chose a career where I work primarily from home. I did this because prior to him, I was a single mom and I needed flexibility with my schedule. I don't appreciate the smart-ass comments from him. When we met, he was so impressed. I built my little self-employed business, and now after years after years with me, he uses it against me because he hates what he does, but he makes good money. And that sounds really, really awful. So if I ever had the feeling that, hey, you know what, I built a really successful business for myself. I'm now self-employed. I can work from home. I have a really comfortable job. I really love what I do. And instead of being supportive, my husband or my partner is actually pretty angry at me, is jealous of me, hates what he's doing, and is taking out that resentment on me, then that's also a problem. So fundamentally, it seems like there are a million different potential issues that could be hiding under the surface here. And it's really hard to know which one is the case. Fundamentally, as someone experiencing this, I would always try to default towards conversation and say, hey, maybe it's worth sitting down, just trying to understand where these behaviors are coming from and why they are so strong. I definitely think that there is an element of this. It sounds a little bit controlling to me, and I get where that's coming from to some extent. But I get where that's coming from. I can see potential reasons for why that might be the case, but OP really has not given us enough context around their relationship, and the context that she has given us makes it sound like the whole relationship is not in a great place with regards to communication. And so yes, some amount of checking in with your spouse is pretty normal. In the majority of cases, I would argue that most people will just say what they're up to without needing any kind of questions. Just because, hey, you know, when you make small talk after the end of a long day where both of you worked, then you just catch up on what the other person was up to, and then it's actually like a nice moment where you connect with each other instead. And so that's pretty standard and pretty normal for the majority of relationships. I would argue, I think that the problem is just when that goes too far, and especially when that goes too far without any seeming reason for it.